Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good
Good
afternoon,
afternoon,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Good afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon, ma'am.
Good
Yes,
afternoon, ma'am.
yes, yes. All right. So we are supposed to have the group presentations, right? So we'll begin
Yes,
with
Yes,
those.
ma'am.
Huh. I think you all know like who all are supposed to present today. Three groups are supposed to do it today, right? First, second, and the third.
yes,
है
ma'am.
ना?
Yes,
Huh.
ma'am.
All right. So we can start with the first. And the marks, the total marks are it is 15, and 10 would be for how you explain and stuff, and 5 would be for the slides and the design, if you will. Right? Design as in how you've created the presentation, how you've created the PPT, and 10 would be how you explain it. Right? That would be the division of marks there. Like you would be marked out of 15 on the basis that thus marks would be how you are presenting, and 5 would be how you have prepared the PPT. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the group one, you can start. Just tell me your names, who all are there, and you can start. All the group members are there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
ठीक है. Okay, so I'm Swam Shikhar Trichandan, and I will be taking your group presentations in the absence of Pallavi ma'am. Okay, the group one can start.
Can I share my screen?
You can.
Ma'am, is the screen visible?
It is.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yugal Mishra. As we all know, politicians are people who are professionally involved in politics and are elected by the citizens of the nation to run the country, and therefore its citizens. With a population consisting of professionals in various fields such as engineers, doctors, lawyers, teachers, etc., politicians are expected to be educationally qualified to lead these citizens. But due to the absence of any such parameters for political candidates, there rises a need for political university, which is our topic for today. Need for political universities for Indian politicians. To elaborate further on the topic, I would like to invite Ajay to proceed further with the presentation.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Many MLAs even do not know the full form of MLA. They have to run the largest democracy in the world, but these gimmicks makes the country a laughing stock at the international level. Complete and proper knowledge helps a person to identify the severity of the situation and accordingly strategies are planned, but without basic knowledge, these types of gimmicks are made. The highest lawmaking body of the country. Can anyone be electing rulers? A minister having no capability to read and understand file may be unable to make proper decisions on regular basis. It is not right for country, but common in many developing countries. John F. Kennedy once said, let us think of education as the means of developing our greatest abilities because in each of us there is a public hope and dream which once fulfilled can be translated into benefits for everyone and greatest strengths for nation. Politicians become powerful administrators after winning elections. They need basic knowledge and education to perform the work. Almost for every post in a country, educational qualification of a person is verified. Then why not politicians? They are the one who form the government and run the country. For this, they need to understand how economy function and runs. These knowledge can be better acquired by education. They are the decision makers of the country and education helps to make diplomatic decisions in any situation. The person who become parliament member should have a proper knowledge about Indian constitution and position he or she he or she is holding. For example, a finance minister, if they doesn't know about finance knowledge and they can deal with how they can deal with foreign delegation and how will they understand what is really happening in global economy. Illiteracy in politics will lead to disaster since politicians are the one who craft the policies on which a nation runs. In politics, we may see that an ex-student of history or economics is making project on or plans of medical or agriculture sectors. These officials in high political positions have a staff of counselors who are highly qualified, but a poorly educated president can nevertheless often recuse himself despite his advisors if he doesn't know simple facts. From here, Ashutosh will present.
Thank you, Ajay. Good afternoon, ma'am. Now I am going to speak on how to understand role, importance, and essence of the Constitution of India in order to conduct the affairs. For explaining my views on why we need political universities for the politicians and everyone else too, let's first begin. What is the Constitution or Bharatiya Samvidhan? So, it is the supreme law of India, and all other laws that are formed are made by keeping in view the Constitution of India. It lays down the framework that demarcates fundamental political code, structure, procedure, powers, and duties of the government. So we need to understand that Constitution of India is not only for our rights and privileges granted by it, but also for all the obligations it gives to all of us as the citizens of India. Now, let's move on to how to gain a deeper insight into issues such as globalization, terrorism, civil rights, and public policies. Here, globalization means integration of regional economics, societies, and culture through global networks. But most of the politicians in India doesn't know even the meaning of globalization. So in India, the pace of globalization is not very fast, and it has just started a few decades before. Second is terrorism. To explain this, the most recent example of Afghanistan can be considered, as there, even though after several years of help from America, their politicians could not save their own countries from terrorism and terror groups, and they didn't even know how to deal with it. Third is civil rights. Every citizen must be made to know about their rights as the citizens of India, and politicians should make the rights easy to be understood by the people. So, as for the proper functioning of the government and ultimately the functioning of the country. Fourth is public policies. It is nothing but the combination of laws, regulations, and policies that are planned by the government for its citizen. And every politician must be made to learn about the politics so as to gain the deeper insight into issues. Now, I would like to call upon Dhruv to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Good afternoon, ma'am, and everyone. Myself, Dhruv Bhargav, and today I'm here to brief you about the use of political universities. Also, plays important role to understand foreign affairs and international relationships. First of all, I like to tell the definition of international relationship. It is the study of nation states and other fields such as politics, economics, etc. It helps us to develop cooperative exchange between nations that benefits commons security, quality of life, and the environment. For example, traditional dimension of international relationship related to international peace and prosperity include topics such as international diplomacy, arms control, and alliance politics. On the other hand, includes topics such as international politics, economics, environmental politics, refugee and migration issue, and human rights. Uh, we can also prevent international conflicts and make sure that things run smoothly so that our relation with the different countries can be good very much. You will Excellent. Hmm. So my second slide is a bit different from the first one. Here I will be telling you the youth coming in politics from different backgrounds. As we continuously seeing that the many of the politicians are uh, coming from rich background, and they don't even know about the politics which we study. So I'll brief you some examples so that you can understand well. As we can see, the many celebrities like Shatrughan Sinha, Govinda, and etc. are in politics, but how even they can run politics, they don't, and they don't know about the politicians. Many sport persons like Navjot Singh Sidhu, Maricom, etc. are also there who are in politics but don't know about it. I'm not telling that they are bad, but there should be in political universities so that everyone can help us, everyone can take care of our country. Um, many engineers like Arvind Kejriwal, he's a very good politician. He's controlling the whole Delhi from many years. Thank you. Now I'd like to call Subra to take over.
Thank you, Dhruv, respected madam, and my dear friends. Today, myself, Shubhra Das, I am here to discuss about my topic, political university and its benefits. India being a democratic country, highly influenced by the people, and it stands for the people, by the people, of the people. In every aspects of our society, politics really plays an important, vital role. For example, economy, taxes, revenue, all are influenced by politics only. As my friends have already discussed many points regarding politics, so I will not take much time and start with my topic, what is a political university and how is it different from an educational university? As we know, political university is an educational organization where it focuses on politics, state, government, administrations, laws, policies, and everything that is related to politics that can help a student to have a better political career and to become an ideal political being in future. It also helps us to have proper idea and knowledge about the current political scenario undergoing for the upliftment of India. Now I would like to say about some points about educational university. Educational university refers to an institution where other fields like engineering, medical, MBA, law, and others are focused except political education. So, firstly, if we separate the student interested in politics from the students who wants to build a career in other fields, then the future educational system of the students in India will be shaped and organized. Secondly, if there will be no interference or disturbance for the students in both the fields, as they will be pursuing their studies in different fields of career. So, lastly, I want to discuss some points or some benefits that we will gain after establishing political universities. It will help the students to have knowledge regarding voting system, which will help in return for proper organization and administration of our country. It will also help to elect a good candidate who can manage our country in a proper way. It also makes us aware of our fundamental needs, fundamental rights, fundamental duties that can help for the welfare of the society. It makes us learn about laws and policies so that if any law or policy feels unfair, then a politically educated person will be in a position to stand against it within the legal boundaries. So being a political leader in future can help in the progress of our country and there will be no corruption in our political system. Hence, there is a need of political education in our country, and thus such universities need to be established to make India politically educated and developed in future years. So, thank you, and I would like to call Sarbajit to continue the next.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon to all my classmates. I am here to present on the need for educational qualifications to enter into politics. Currently, there is no specific eligibility to enter into politics, but they should have a minimum graduate qualification as they need to administer and draft workable laws for the country. The responsibility of this job is huge. Any uneducated illiterate who is not even able to read and write cannot be considered as a member of the parliament. Besides, there is a data that shows the percentage of ministers who have completed their education up to different levels in each state. It shows Kerala, which has the highest literacy rate in India, has over 30% of its cabinet comprising ministers who have discontinued education after school, while 42% of them are graduates and only 2% hold a doctorate, while the Union cabinet, with a strength of 56, has 14.2% of ministers who have just completed their school. Around 27% are postgraduates and 8% are doctorates. This also shows that only 7 of the 28 states have ministers who hold a doctorate. This is because there is no specific requirement for ministers to have any kind of educational qualifications. So, in the next slide, I will explain how to make them attain a minimum educational qualification, like making it compulsory. There must be political universities which will be determined as the sole university to enter into politics. Like for professional courses, one is to study in respective universities, or else one cannot get to enter into those fields. Secondly, almost for every post in our country, educational qualifications of a person is verified. Then why not for politicians? They are the ones who forms the government and runs the country. For this, they need to understand how economy functions and runs. This knowledge can be better acquired by education. So what I mean, they should have a certain qualifications, like for graduate courses or postgraduate courses one needs to maintain at least 65% in their class 12 boards or 6.5 CGPA in their graduate levels. It should also be for politicians. Thirdly, we often see that people enter into politics through money or through approach to higher authorities. But political universities will ensure to provide enough competition among the students to enter into it. Just like the students of engineering, medical, or even civil services, they had to struggle a lot to for their competitive exams to get their dream college. They had to struggle a lot so that they can achieve what they want. They cannot do it through approach or through powerful authority. Same thing must be ensured for politicians. They are the decision makers of the country. Even many educated officers work under them. How can their leader be underqualified? Fourth is, we know that not all educated person can develop our nation. They need political knowledge to ensure development, which shall be acquired through political universities. Lastly, the students can be placed into their respective political parties of their choice, and after that, according to their skills and services to the local people, they can be elected as the ministers. All this is to ensure that no ministers comprising the state or the union should be underqualified. Now, the presentation will be further continued by Pallavi Kumari.
Thank you, Sarvji. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Pallavi Kumari and I am here to give a small presentation on my subtopic Consequences of Illiterate Politician in Indian Democracy. Illiterate politician means poor education system. As a result, our employment increases. Priority of education is negligible for illiterate politicians. They talk about good roads, bridges, etc., but they don't know about engineers. For example, compared to politicians first Arvind Kejriwal, Chief Minister of Delhi, and Nitish Kumar, Chief Minister of Bihar. I'm not saying that they are illiterate, but their thought about education make them illiterate or literate. After listening the name Arvind Kejriwal, first thing which come in our mind is a good government, school or good education system. And by listening the name of CM of Bihar, Nitish Kumar, first thing which come in our mind is unemployment. So, if we want to grow our country, we have to look our education system and a literate government. Now, I would like to call upon Yugal Mishra to continue this. Thank you.
Thank you, Pallavi. As we all know that there are two sides to any coin. So I would like to change the perspective to the other aspect of our topic. Can educational qualification really be set as a guideline for the leaders of such a diverse nation? There have been many arguments supporting the notion that it is actually the core beliefs and the values that need to be measured in a politician rather than the degrees or certificates. What good is a politician with a PhD if he or she is not aware of its citizens' problems? Education builds the foundations for such values, but there is no assurance. Then comes the factor that such qualifications undermine the concept of democracy. The central idea of democracy is that, may it be illiterate or literate, poor or rich, everybody should be treated equally, at least in theory. If it is being practiced in reality, that is another topic. Our nation still has 313 million illiterate people, which is around 30% of the population. This steals away the chance of equal representation in the country. But again, this factor is heavily outnumbered by the sheer importance of education in every person's life. Thank you. This brings us to the conclusion of our presentation. I would like to summarize our discussion with the note that education is what helps progress, and political leaders are the beacon who guide the nation to greatness. So, an educated leader is what is essential in the development of a nation, and a political university would be essential in the development of an educated leader. These are the references which are acknowledged in the slide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Group 1. Any questions for them? If anyone has any questions for Group 1, you can ask. All right. Um, it was a quite interesting topic, first thing. Secondly, I really liked the division of the work, the division of the parts of the topic, if you will. Right? That was good. Like some were giving the introduction, some were trying to make the need for the political universities felt, and he was sort of trying to build towards this particular point where talk about what is political university and what is its need for that matter. What I think you could have done differently is that, of course, it was you beautifully explained it. It was good. You had examples, instances. It was good. You even took examples from our scenario, from our current political system, and you put forward some names. So that sort of makes your arguments convincing, as well as it sort of reflects that you have researched it well. You have not just taken this topic for the sake of it. You have at least looked around कि क्या चल रहा है in our country for that matter. So it is good in that way. Only one thing what you could have made differently is you could have organized the information in a different manner. Meaning, when a person, for example, I think it was Yugal who introduced it, and then Ajay and Ashutosh and Dhruv, they were sort of trying to build on towards the point where Shubhra comes and tells us what is political universities. Then after, again, we have some who need political universities. मतलब introduction हो रहा है, then you are building till one particular point where you explain it, and then we are listening to what is the need for it. ठीक
Yes,
है,
ma'am.
वहाँ पे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में थोड़ा सा प्रॉब्लम था. What you could have done is you could have directly given an introduction, and but initial में ही you could have made it, you could have talked about what is the what happens if we have illiterate politicians. Right, उसको comprehensive बना के you could have kept it there only, खत्म. After talking about political universities, you did not go back to the same point again. Right. So it feels like we're just moving back and forth around the same thing for that matter. Like we're revolving around the same thing. We are supposed to revolve around the same thing, but we have to go in an organized manner, if you will. That is the only thing that you could have done. What is I really liked the examples that you had brought in. It was good. Someone gave Afghanistan the example. It was good. In the second slide, there were a lot of quotations, as in this politician said this politician said this. In the slide itself, you could have given the reference कि यहाँ से हमने ये उठाया है. right? Because it is a very sensitive issue, if you will, right? When we say कि this politician said this, so in order to avoid, in order to remove the accountability, if you will, no one should tell you that you have framed the quotes for that matter, right? So in order to remove that accountability, what you could have done is उधर ही तुम references डाल देते, right? There are certain changes that you could have done. Um, Otherwise, I really liked this you know whole idea, whole topic of the political university and the need for it. So yes, it was good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Huh. So the next group two.
Ma'am, may I share the screen?
Hmm.
So, ma'am, is it visible?
No, not yet. हाँ अभी हो रहा है. Yes, it
So,
is visible now.
good morning to everyone present here, respected Swam Shikha ma'am, my dear friends. As we all know, today we are all having some issues in our life. Every generation is having some sort of issues which we are struggling through. But if we measure, then who is happy, who is enjoying, or who have enjoyed it, who have enjoyed the life and take the nectar of the life? Let's find out by looking into our presentation. To start, I would like to ask Asutosh Kumar Raut to elaborate the points. Asutosh, the stage is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, respected teachers and my fellow classmates. Amish, can you show the slide, please? Wait, Amish, wait. Before discussing about happier generation, we need to understand about both the generations, their source of happiness and their respective environment. And was that environment a factor of happiness or not? So let's go ahead. Amish, second slide, please. Firstly, I would like to express my appreciation to my academic supervisor, Dr. Pallavi Kiran, who has been a great role model throughout our assignment. Her advice and guidance allowed us to perform to our fullest potential. And I would like to thank my team, Amish, Devyanshi, and Satvik. So, Sir Edward George stated, we live longer than our forefathers, but we suffer more from 1,000 artificial anxieties and cares. The fatigued only the muscles, we exhaust the finer strength of nerves. I totally agree with that statement because because I know we have greater life expectancy, but they had greater expectancies in their lives. And for me, expectancy in life holds higher position than the life expectancy. They were free from anxieties, fake people, and suicidal thoughts, unlike us. Amish, second slide, please. Talking about both the generations' happiness, we need to know differences present inside and outside in the lives of both the generations. First of all, they lived in a very beautiful and clean environment. But for us, due to industrialization and modernization, our environment has been polluted like hell. They had fresh food and water throughout their lives, hence had a healthy life. On the other hand, we are filled with so much of chemicals through our food and water that our body has become a junkyard, become a place where garbage is to be put. Junk food and unhealthy lifestyle has made our body weaker. They did things in common. Whole village was a big family. Unlike us, we do me and my family only. Although no electricity, they have a beautiful moonlight which they can sit under it without any fear. Amish, third slide. Again, to support my statement, I would like to throw some light on the following points. The human ideals like love, empathy, and fellowship, etc., have depreciated in this era of scientific world in greater extent. Ego, jealousy has taken over our innocence, and they had those human ideals in greater extent, unlike us. Souls, their soul was driven by spiritual ideologies, give a lot of peace, giving them a lot of peace. And actions driven and motivated by ethics lead to less corruption. Thirdly, the most important thing they had was less needs and expectations. We know that the life that hurt us, that in the life that hurt us the most, is our expectations only. Since they already had less expectations with everything, they managed to save themselves from getting hurt and sad. Family values and respect for elders, teachers are the most important thing they had that we still lack. Their family was their only soul. Their life was around their own family. But we, as Generation Z, are stuck in our own virtual and fake spaces. I have already stated that they had less needs. So, peace of mind is obvious. Now, I would like Satvik to take over the stage.
Thanks, Sutosh. Good afternoon, ma'am. Myself Satvik. I'm going to take this presentation forward. Why Gen Z is so depressed? Parents are so busy making good life for the children that the affection needed by the kids is not getting fulfilled. New generation is searching for the love outside, which they should be getting at home from their family. Technology is one of the major causes of this generation gap. Let's face it. Our laptops, smartphones, tablets, the internet, and all the social media apps have distanced us further apart. We have started living in a digital world rather than in physical one. And now sharing stuff on social media is more important than sharing thoughts and feelings with our family. While children feel stressed and anxious because they have a lot to do and excel at, their schedule is full. They hardly find any time to contemplate what's going on because children may not have complete freedom and it's also some activities they might do. They may feel they are like cage birds. As a result, kids start feeling less connected to their parents. When people of different generations come in contact, a difference in ideas, opinions, and communication gap takes over, which sometimes makes children feel separated as most conversations don't even involve them. Now, for the primary cause, the loss of structure. In the old days, people were told what to do, what job to take, whom to marry. Freedom is a double-edged sword. Now people choose, but spend the rest of their lives wondering, doubting, and eyeing better choices. Amish, can you take this next? What changed? What brought the difference? Back in the days, parents were only concerned about their child's studies and marriage. Basically, the center of their universe was their child. But nowadays, parents have a lot far busier schedule. They have never ending office hours, a crazy big social circle, and not to mention they are obsessed with smartphones just like their children. Lack of physical games due to this generation's video games. Too much video games can lead to poor social skills, poor time management, time away from they may have time away from family. Uh, and in the olden days, people were told what to do. Having priorities isn't even a thing. Now people choose. They have a goal and they will to reach them. As people evolve, cultures evolve too. The cultural activities which used to socialize people are almost gone now. I'm done with my part. I would like to ask Divyanshi to take the presentation ahead.
Thank you, Satvik. I, Divyanshi Gora, am going to get ahead with the topic. Good afternoon, ma'am. Unlike my mate said, I would prefer that our generation, that is Gen Z, is much more happier than the previous one. I'll start with what advantages we had which our parents cannot obey. Unlike the previous generation, we have the liberty to choose our professions without much resistance from our parents or society. We can switch jobs and not remain stuck up in one single job only because it provided financial stability, which was top priority few decades back. Coming to choosing our partners, they say our marriages don't last. They say we don't know how to love. They say we are flimsy. While we agree that old school romance is at time, the reason for failed marriages is not because this generation doesn't value relationships, it's because this generation doesn't track loveless relationships. Coming to the third point, that's marriage between equals. Of course, there still are unequal marriages, discrimination, etc. But all this is changing. This generation largely believes in equality in love. Marriage is more of a friendship between equals today, as compared to unbalanced power equation of Easters. We are financially much more independent. The fact that every member of the family earns today, we have greater financial independence today. We are not squeamish about spending, be it shopping online for our favorite shoes or dining in a fancy restaurant after a tiring day at office. We have the means to do what makes us happy. We don't give a damn to log kya kahenge. The one thing that is changing for the better is a disregard of what the society thinks. We don't sacrifice our happiness for the fear of what the society will think. One thing that drove our parents and most of their decisions was the omnipresent log kya sochenge. Thankfully, the modern generation has been able to overcome this fear to a large extent. We have a life outside the family. It might sound selfish to some, but believe it or not, having a life outside family helps us one achieve a balance in life. This generation prioritize friendships much higher than the previous one. The young generation is much more tolerant at religious and ethnic differences. Young adults today are much more accepting of differences in race, religion, ethnicity, and class. We are not afraid to marry in a different community or a class because the only thing that matters are people, and this generation has realized it all too well. Nowadays, getting a job is not so difficult as it was in our parents' time. Now the world is full of opportunities and is much easier to earn money today, thanks to technology and globalization, which made our life easier. Work is more fun these days. The environment at the workplaces is a lot more chilled out today. Team lunches, casual dressing, offsites, all these had made life easier and exciting than it was in our parents' time. Today, more and more people are traveling for leisure. Traveling no longer means a 3 day trip to Shimla or Nainital in the summer holidays with family, like it was in the 90s. The young generation wants to explore, travel, meet new people, and subject itself to new experiences. Next slide, please. Coming to social levels from which we are free, the first point that I would mention is low status of women. In early days, having a girl was not considered good. Girls were considered to be a burden on family, and in many cases, they were killed even before they were born. Girls were denied to have basic human rights. Thankfully, this generation has no discrimination in grounds of gender. Secondly, dowry. Girls' parents had to give a large amount of money as dowry even if they were not capable of giving it. They did not spend money to teach their girl child as they used to thought. They will have to pay this money in the future at the time of marriage. Thirdly, child marriage. It was quite prevalent at our previous generation time, Girl children used to get married at very age of 13 or 14, which has been improved to a large extent this generation. Coming to the next point, caste system. I still do not get with this thing. I never see any human being through the lens of caste. People used to discriminate people of backward castes, used to bully, or had an awkward attitude towards them. Now it has been decreasing with time. Now we'll talk. Next slide. Now we'll talk that how we, the present generation, is benefited. We now are a part of social order which has seen wonderful progress in every field. We have multi-storied buildings, skyscrapers, flyovers, air conditioners, cinema, TVs, computers, laptops, etc., which makes our life easy, comfortable, and enjoyable, and even fast. We have no time left to be seated idle with no work or entertainment. Secondly, there is a swift means of transport like superfast trains, aeroplanes, etc., to take us wherever we want, which saves a lot of time. As our previous generation used to make their way by foot or cycle, which was a waste of time as well as energy. In this busy world, the transport has played a major role in the youngster's life. We wear clothes of our comfort, variety, durability, and utility. These days, there's no one to judge by their clothes. Tremendous growth in agro products and cooking culture has made eating a varied experience of taste and flavor. Widespread education has changed the face of human society. We are more culturally advanced. There has also been great progress in the field of medical sciences. No doubt our age is at the highest peak of material progress and physical comfort. Thank you. Now I would like to pack up with my part and request my teammate Amish to head on with the presentation.
Thank you guys for elaborating different aspects of the topic. Now, we have recently saw that what Generation Z got. But now let's look into what our forefathers had. So let's first look at what we have and they didn't. As for Gen Z, we should be grateful that we are getting so many things that our parents never had. We have almost everything, but we seriously lack the correct mindset and even have our mental health quite messed up. We are still struggling with our own new issues such as over competitive world, social distractions, and many more. The list is ever growing. As for our forefathers' perspective, Gen Z is having it very easy. As our forefathers used to struggle with information sharing, education facilities, medical facilities, accessibility of things, etc., our forefathers really believe that we have it easy on many aspects. Yet, today's generation is struggling and they are enjoying the yet today's generation is struggling, but our forefathers were enjoying the uncertainty of life which they experienced at their time. They were ready for it. They were ready to take the responsibilities. Now let's look into what their childhood and our childhood had and what we are missing. So for like both of the generation had different childhood. While we were stuck in our virtual world, our forefathers were busy exploring and making the world. While we were lost in the feeling of like we lo- while we lost the feeling of enthusiasm, they were cherishing it. They were enjoying it. While we are making our physique in gym and working out, they were working hard and made their life. These are only some differences, and there's a lot of them. And I can say that we are not enjoying the life. Instead, we are struggling through it. Let's look at what we think about life and what they thought about their life. So, by struggling with life, I meant that now Generation Z is in so much mental chaos that we are not living. We are just living because we are afraid of death. Most of the youth doesn't look forward in life. They just want to run away from all the things going around them. Whereas our forefathers, they were looking forward to life. Having a dream and believing in it was a part of their daily life. Struggling, learning, and experiencing them made them stronger. And as for conclusion, I would like to say that I can only say that we have not seen enough life. So we are not eligible to judge that who was happier or who had it easy or something like that. But I can say that Generation Z is having many mental conditions related issues, and we are very much struggling through it. As I stated in the slide, wouldn't it be great if both the generations could get along? If we both accept each other and learn from each other? Wouldn't that society be called what we know as utopia? As a part of Gen Z, we should try to take up those good things like simplicity, manners, respect, hard work, peace of mind, and add them up with our multitasking, smartness, brilliance, technology, and many more resources which we have. So, in the end, I would like to show my gratitude to the few of the reference sources like AZ quotes, which provided some good quotes, and Wikipedia, Google, Quora, and debate.org. Thank you for your patient listening. We really felt appreciated through your positive guidance. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Take me to the first slide.
One second.
Uh-huh. And also, if anyone has any questions for them, you can ask. We'll make some arrangement wherein your friends are not supposed to ask you questions. ऐसा कुछ किया है क्या?
No, ma'am. It's just that
All right.
it's our first time, so
Okay. All right. Hmm. So now, tell me, what is the error in this? There's an error in this particular slide. Only the members of this group, that is Amish, Ashutosh, Satvik, and Divyanshi, four of
yes,
you
ma'am.
identify the error that is there in this particular slide. There's not much content, so it will not be difficult for you to identify it. एक गलती है. What is that?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, more happier.
Yes. More happier नहीं. ठीक है? You will not write more happier. You can either write more happy or happier. Don't write more happier.
Yes, ma'am.
No,
Yes,
check
ma'am.
your slides very carefully for ऐसे errors, छोटे छोटे errors कभी कभी रह
Ma'am,
जाते हैं तो इसीलिए हाँ.
ma'am, can I say something?
हाँ, sure.
Ma'am, in the classroom PPT which Pallavi ma'am has provided us, the assignment topics, ma'am, she has written present generation versus our forefathers, which is or was more happier.
Yes, ma'am. So like at first we wrote happier, then we thought
No.
like let's go with the flow.
No, it will be either more happy or happier.
Yeah,
Yes,
ठीक है?
ma'am,
sure,
we are talking right away
sure.
on that board.
Maybe there was some ऐसे
बनाते हुए हो जाएगा मैम वो.
हाँ
it
भाई
might
मैम.
have slipped through, but then you make sure that you
नहीं मैम हम लोग का गलती था हम लोग को एक बार डबल चेक
Yes,
करना
ma'am.
चाहिए.
ठीक है हाँ all right. हाँ sorry, did you say something?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right. So now coming to the content of it. Now it was very good. Like the way you talked about both the generations, it was good. Of course, when you talked about our forefathers, and then you talked about the Gen Z. So it was good that way. You were pointing out, you were sort of giving me points यहाँ पे भी, and you were giving me points यहाँ पे भी. One thing I would like to point out, just like I told the good one, कि एकदम organization का देखते. ठीक है? अगर if there are some set of people who are talking about one particular generation, मतलब next would be talking about the other generation, and then you wind up. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि we are just moving as a back and forth, right? That is one
Yes,
thing. Second thing, there are two kinds of statements that were being made in throughout the course of the presentation. One kind was very, you would say, it was well researched. It was just पता चल रहा था कि हाँ ठीक है इस particular statement को, behind this particular statement a lot of research has gone. If not research, at least information has gone behind forming this statement, forming this argument for that matter.
Yes, ma'am.
On the other hand, there were certain statements which were generalized to the level that they are wrong, right? Wrong generalized statements. And the problem with the wrong generalized statements is that when we propagate such ideas, when we propagate such discourses, it sort of, takes the reality out of it, right? When you say that we do not have, or like women are not considered inferior to men, or if you say that women are not men are not considered superior, like it's the same, it is just saying the same thing in two different ways. When you say that in the present society the difference is not there, the difference is very much there. Sexism is there in every field, may it be education, may it be cinema, may it be, you just name the field, may it be politics, it is very much there in every
yes, ma'am.
field, right? You could have said that the situation has improved, but do not, pass on a very emphatic statement कि नहीं खत्म हो गया. No, 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 not at all.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
cannot
Absolutely
say,
agree.
again, you cannot say that caste system is not there. It is very much there, right?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
can say कि हाँ, Gen Z maybe is there is a no there's a considerable improvement.
Yes, ma'am. It is
Right,
very
but
well.
there's two different way of saying what you're trying to put across. So be very careful on this thing. That particular slide which had four statements, no, it was very problematic. So वो एक बार तुम लोग ध्यान रखना. And even if you are writing such statements, there's a way of explaining those things. You could have said कि considerable improvement है, पूरा नहीं है, but considerable improvement है. थोड़ा थोड़ा
Yes, ma'am.
change हो रहा है.
Yes,
Right?
ma'am.
You could
Okay.
have done it that way. Hmm. Yes. In that particular slide, there was a pyramid ka figure. I think it was, what was that pyramid ka figure all about?
No,
Amit sir, show कर देना.
it was about caste system.
I don't think it was
Like,
about caste system. Can you please go back to that one?
yeah.
Like, it's all right, but I think it was not about caste system. It was something else.
No, it
For
was like government officials, then soldiers, then merchants, artisans, farmers, slaves.
Acha, now you is this caste system what all about? Is this the caste system that we're talking about?
Ma'am, earlier the caste system formed with basically this idea, na?
Yes, ma'am.
Like,
Yeah.
ma'am, with
Huh.
which time it changed to birth, but earlier it was on the basis of work.
Yes, ma'am. था ना मैं ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय शूद्र वैश्य.
The basis was ये कि the division of labor, but ultimately it changed.
Yes, ma'am.
Ultimately the names were given and
Yes.
it changed. हाँ, ठीक है, all right. So these were the things that you need to focus on, or else it was good. You had the right, you were pointing towards the right path, if you will. But वही है कि थोड़ा
Yes, ma'am.
थोड़ा इधर उधर problem हो रहा था, or else it's good.
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Another statement, I think you particularly focused about how less needs and expectations were a sort of boon for the earlier, for our forefathers, if you
Yes,
will.
ma'am. That was my statement, ma'am.
I would like you to think about this thing, that how the present life, the modern life that we are living, how that is sort of driven by, इससे बहुत बहुत ज़्यादा expectations and the thirst for more, for that matter, right? Just think on these lines एक बार.
Ma'am, that
Yes,
was a
ma'am.
part, but that was part that was assigned to Amish. We planned कि हम लोग पहले forefathers को explain करेंगे. That was my part, and then Satvik will come and explain the contrast
Yes,
of
ma'am.
that. Then Divyanshi will come and then Amish will come. That was
Hmm.
Amish part.
Hmm. It was good. Like Amish pointed out, no, how the present world is very over competitive and a lot of social distractions were
Yes,
there.
ma'am.
That was good. That was that. Like
मतलब
overall,
उसी
your
पॉइंट का कॉन्ट्रापोजिट था।
sorry, sorry.
मतलब उसी पॉइंट का कॉन्ट्रास्ट था
हाँ
कि हम
हाँ.
लोग का पुराने जमाने में क्या था और अभी क्या है। यस मैम।
ठीक है ठीक है.
थैंक यू मैम।
All right, it was good. Overall, it was good. ठीक है, just
थैंक यू मैम।
take care of these things. Or it's fine.
Yes, ma'am. Sure,
विल
ma'am.
श्योर मेक
Thank you,
चेंजेस
ma'am.
मैम।
हाँ. Okay. The next one, group three.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Can I share my screen?
Sure, sure.
Good afternoon to everybody present. My name is Gomza Singh Teotia, and as you can see, here are the name of all the members of a group. And the topic that was assigned to our group is failures of achiever. Does it really motivates? So moving on to the next slide, the first topic that I'm going to talk about are who are achievers and what are the types of achievers. Well, first, as you can see, there's a definition. They are people who like to achieve things through any means or any methods. But when we talk about achiever, there are mostly two types of achievers: less achievers or high achievers. Or you can also just say overachievers. So, but we are going to talk about two: less achievers and high achievers. When we talk about less achievers, there are people who doesn't want to achieve much things and they are happy with anything they have at that moment. But when we talk about high achievers, they want to achieve more and more, like there is a force that's driving them to achieve things till they are satisfied. Well, in this presentation, we are going to relate all the topics to high achievers and we will discuss when these people fail, does their failure motivates other or not, and how they feel regarding their own failures. So the next statement that I'm going to talk about, Pratyush, can you please change to the next slide? Thinking of high achievers. In this topic, we are going to talk about thinking of high achievers. We can't be sure what they are thinking, but we can say that there are similar things or habits that most of the high achievers have. Maybe many of high achievers think that if they achieve much more than what an ordinary person cannot, maybe their problems will be solved. Maybe it's a disorder which makes them feel uneasy if they don't make an effort in their work, or their willpower that's make them fixated on their statement that they want to achieve more, or maybe their ego that won't let them feel less inferior to other. But there's also a positive side in this. Like most of them are very dedicated towards anything they do. They focus on everything and do their work with giving their full effort. Now I would like to invite Pratyush to elaborate our presentation further.
Thank you, Gomzi. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pratyush Adhikari. Today, I would like to talk to you about how really the failure and success are different, and how the failure can be used as a secret weapon to attain certain target or certain goal set by one. At last, what make achievers different and how do they deal with the different scenario in the coming two slides. So, before digging into the topic, let us differentiate the success and failure. Success and failure can be understood as two different outcomes of a same situation. One can refer to success and failure as similar to the two sides of a coin. And it also depends on one how they perceive the outcome. Usually, an favorable outcome is considered out to be a success. Failure, on the other hand, it is the downside of a particular scenario. Now let us see how failure is nature's secret weapon. No one is there in the world who haven't faced any kind of obstacles. All might have landed into failure before getting success. Failure is a setback for one, no doubt over it. It results in disappointment. A common fault in most of the people is that they are unable to cope up with it. For them, it is difficult to endure. It is interpreted in different ways. It varies from person to person, but it is not that negative. One who has failed has two choices: sit in that failure and give up, or make a decision to
to make out of the darkness. Now let us see. Uh, Now let us see what makes achievers different from a common person, or how do they deal with various situations. Accepting the failure is the first step towards success. The person who accepts the result and make decision accordingly are the real achievers. A person who is aware of his weakness and flaws through his failure, he or she had more possibility or chances to succeed in the next approach of the similar situations. They find experience as a key weapon. They find the loophole in their approach and try to fix it. It shows their top mindset and determinations. They continuously evaluate their approach. And for them, it's a part of the learning process, and learning process is a part of moving forward. They are quite optimistic about their activity, how to deal, what they do, and how to work. And for them, the biggest risk is not taking any kind of risk. Failure doesn't always mean failure. Let me cite an example here. Colonel Sanders, who is the founder of KFC, his recipe was rejected 1009 times before anyone accepted it. He never let that big number of 1009 demotivate him. He was fired from multiple jobs. He ruined his legal career, yet still created one of the largest fast food chain in the world. By 2013, there was an estimated 18,000 KFC's outlet spread across 118 countries. Isn't it a big number? Helen Keller, on the other hand, who was physically challenged, never let that dominate her. She became the first deep blind to earn a Bachelor of Arts in social dedication and strong willpower. The mark of successful people isn't how they have managed to succeed, but rather how they have managed to fail and how they have managed to embrace the failure as a stepping stone. Before I leave, I want to end with a quote. Failure plants the seed of future success, and this has been proved by many of the achievers. Thank you very much. Now I would like to request Ayan to take over the presentation. And please.
Thank you, Pratyush. Firstly, I feel glad to have been given this opportunity to express my take on the topic failures of achievers. Does it really motivate? I need not to explain the overview of the topic as my fellow mates did an excellent job of doing so. So we shall directly head towards the actual business, or if I may address the already addressed elephant in the room, that is motivation. Motivation, a word very familiar and a word so misused. The word motivation, which is supposed to have a direct and clear meaning, has lately turned into a word with a meaning that has become subjective. If I start with all the possible pros of motivation, I might start sounding cliche, repetitive, boring, and adverse like Sandeep Maheshwari. Yeah, I know. The escalation level of being offensive on that one went from 0 to 100 like instantly. And considering that, let's just take a small enough dig at people who fantasize motivation, or as I like to call it, motivation in disguise. Generally speaking, the motivation we are given is more or less associated with the phrase dream it, chase it, work hard, and achieve it. Yeah, I know, sounds more like instructions behind an Oreo packet. Open it, take the biscuits apart, lick it, dip it in milk, and eat. Simple enough. While that's not the case with reality. With motivation, not Oreo, obviously. And that's exactly where the root of the problem resides. Which brings me to my next point. That is the real and the real life motivation. I would like Pratyush to change the slide. Thank you, Pratyush. If you ever feel demotivated or depressed, just go on YouTube and write motivation. I'm pretty sure you'll get enough motivational content that is allegedly supposed to keep you motivated for at least a century or so. And the variety of motivation will be more than what you'll get at a Domino's outlet. Among all this, success stories are the most prevalent source of motivation and the topic of discussion. Success stories themselves are not the problem, but the way they are represented, or if I may correct myself by saying, the way success stories are exploited to garner views, slash money, and feed irrelevant nonsense in young minds and people trying to find a path through these motivations. You can go and find a new motivation each day and get confused on which one is right. In all this chaos, the aspect of developing critical thinking gets missed out. which questions the practicality of motivation. Saying that brings me to my last point. Practicality of motivation slash success stories. Practicality, a word not used often while talking about success stories or motivation in general. The difference between getting inspired and planning the same destiny for yourself as your hero from the success story seems to get no attention. We get our expectations so high, but forget to check if what we are getting motivated about is even relevant to us. Or is this just a blind push into a terrain you don't want to be in after some time? The mentality of motivation drawn from failures of achievers often leads to तुम चाहो तो कुछ भी कर सकते हो. Or you can do anything you want to do if you put in all the hard work and dedication in it. Is that really so? Should you really be wasting all your hard work, dedication, and mental energy in something that is not in relevance to you? Will that be a fair trade? If something was relevant to Mark Zuckerberg while failing or succeeding in his way to creating Facebook, will it be relevant to you too? I don't know. The probability is very low. Learning from achievers' mistakes, getting inspired from them only to carve out your own destiny and not to be a replica. That should be the goal. Get motivated, but first, analyze, then act. On an ending note, I would like to mention a quote, which I guess isn't a cliche motivational quote, hopefully. Be like salt. Its presence isn't noticed, but its absence makes everything tasteless. Be that salt. Be flexible and adaptive with whatever the situation throws at you. Thank you. Now I would like to call my fellow mate Suprasad to take this presentation forward.
Thank you, Ayan. Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Suprasad Sadangi. Today, I will discuss what are the two types of motivations. First of all, what do we mean by intrinsic motivation? Intrinsic motivation is a term that refers to a person's behavior when it is driven by personal satisfaction, doing something purely because it's fun or enjoyable. As intrinsic motivation comes from inside a person rather than from an external source, they are motivated by the sheer enjoyment and sense of satisfaction of working on a task and its eventual completion. When intrinsic motivation kicks in, the willingness to perform a task comes automatically, as an aspect of having fun and a feeling of being challenged comes simultaneously. Let me cite an example. The founder and the former CEO of Apple, Steve Jobs, have plenty of intrinsic motivation to become successful and endure difficult times. Steve Jobs was successful enough to revive the company and bring it back in the same successful phase as it had. He didn't fear failure, rather, he was more intrinsically motivated to become successful. Now, let me talk about what is extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is an external influence that impels people to act or behave in a specific way. External influence include rewards, promotion, prizes, etc. Extrinsic motivation refers to the behavior that is driven by external reward. These rewards can be tangible such as money or grades, or intangible such as praise or fame. Extrinsic motivators will increase immediate performance but will have a detrimental effect on the subsequent performance when a reward is not offered. Additionally, when the promise of reward is broken, there will be an even greater decrease in performance. Also, extrinsic motivation has some pros as well as some cons. The pros are this motivation can influence individual or a group and their productivity level. It creates a desire to choose after the goals or dreams. Extrinsic motivation creates the foundation for survival. Here are some cons regarding extrinsic motivation. External rewards are the ones that typically don't last for a lifetime. It's often a finite process. It can cause people and terms to have an unrealistic expectation of the future. Now, let me cite another example related to extrinsic motivation. The former Indian captain and the god of cricket legend Sachin Tendulkar is an inspiration for MS Dhoni. And his Dhoni career didn't start well, but he always keeps his idol Sachin in front and worked hard day and night and finally landed into a successful career. Now he is a legend who inspired many. Pratyush, please change the slide. Thank you. Now let me talk how now let me talk how motivation leads to innovation. Motivation is the main force through which individuals allocate effort to generate and implement innovative ideas. It is concluded that a culture that motivates new solution and innovative improvements in a particular, first of all, prevent ideas from getting lost in a daily business and within the organization. Let me cite an example here. Bill Gates, who was a Harvard dropout, he co-owned a business called Trace or Data, which was a true failure. His skill and passion for computer programming turned his failure into the pioneer of famous software company that is Microsoft. And then the 31-year-old into the world's youngest self-made billionaire. It is fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lesson of failure. This means that the parameters of each other are different and not the result itself. When learning from your failure, it is necessary to stop blaming the world, circumstances, or other people. You must reflect as soon as possible on your mistake. It's the failure that gives you proper perspective on success. Now, let me end my presentation with the quote: you can't discover new ocean unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. Now, I would like to invite my fellow mate Satyam to take over the presentation further. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Satyam Kumar Maurya, and my subtopic is learning from setbacks and comebacks of achievers. Setbacks are meant to happen on our way to achieve our goals. The thing is that achievers expect setbacks. Expecting setbacks makes up the mind to be prepared to deal with the aftermaths of it. Expecting setbacks can be pretty helpful in taking calculated risks, and that in turn can lower the post failure trauma, thereby making it easy for us to get back on the track. Having less emotion and more information. Achieving goals, whether be it short term or long term, is about getting things done. Getting things done is directly related to having enough information to run the task and go get the small goals and keep doing them consistently to get to reach to our final destination. Dealing with self doubt. Self doubt can sink more ships than self confidence can save. One of the most effective way to deal with it is to take the fear of failing along with the way and not letting it paralyze us and finally preventing ourselves from achieving our goals. Being flexible and adaptive. Even after taking calculated risks or a leap of faith, failure can become the next stop. Changing our ways and strategies and being flexible and adaptive makes us strong enough to take challenges and more frequently do it with ease. Moving real quick. Among the people having same potential and persistence, there's one thing that separates some from achieving their goals and some from not, and that's moving real quick. Either you stay at the top by monopoly or by getting ahead of the competition. For the former, you need to move real quick, channelizing our energy and efforts towards the goal. Obstacles and failures walk hand in hand. At times, lows can be more deceiving than expected. In those times, getting yourself together and channelizing all of your energy towards your goals magnifies the small steps into a big results. Thank you. This is all from my side. And now I would like to invite Amlan to take our presentation further and conclude it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amlan Ranjan Gogoi, and I will throw some lines on our last topic, which is failure and its negative influence. Before I start, let us first understand what is failure. What is failure? In a winning is everything society, how do we handle and define failure? Failure is the lack of success. Failures are a certain setback in life that either make you strong or break you down. We all experience it, but only some people know how to learn from it and be more successful in future. Please move to the next slide. The negative influence of failures. It's natural to try to avoid things that could end into failure. Failures can be embarrassing and painful to experience. The path to success is not a bed of roses. The obstacles in the path of success can sometimes be extremely terrifying. Breaking down the morale of soft hearted people is inevitable. After having a glimpse of what it is like to struggle, many results into giving up. Failure of achievers increases fear of failure. Fear of failure tend to make the person avoid taking the first step. Mistakes sometimes can be extremely scary. People fall into such situations where they can't get a comeback. In such cases, failure of achievers rather can act as a demotivation. To conclude our presentation, I would like to say that there isn't any absolute answer to conclude whether failure of achievers acts as a motivation or not. Rather, it depends on the individual, on how he takes the failure of achievers. It can either result in the formation of a strong foundation or keeping him away from taking the first step, or making him lose hope in the middle of the path. Point to be noted is that the first step is the one which is the most difficult one. Now, at last, I would end by presenting a quote by the famous philanthropist Jack Ma. Today is difficult. Tomorrow is much more difficult. But day after tomorrow is beautiful. Most people die tomorrow evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Yours was then next again I need to see the topic and they all did a very good job. Like in terms of consistency, like both in the content and delivery, there was consistency in the whole group, like in all the
Excuse me, ma'am.
members. Yes.
When someone's mic is on, I am not able to hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll speak louder. So what I was saying is yours was a very abstract topic and you all did a very good job because in terms of both your delivery and the content, like both content and how you explained it, there was this consistency throughout the presentation, if you will. So that was very good. I really liked how you were pitching, no, pitching in the ideas. You were putting forward the ideas, and then you were giving me examples to substantiate those ideas. Right, so it was making your whole presentation very convincing, if you will. Right, convincing, emphatic, and motivating, if I may, borrow the word from your presentation. So overall, I really liked it. Like the way you all had. You know put together the content and the way you uh, explained it. The fact is, abstract topics are a bit difficult to create presentations on. But then you did a very good job. So, first thing, only one question I would like to ask you all that when we talk about uh, achievers as a different category, like when we make a label, ki achiever, this person is an achiever, this person is a non-achiever, if you will. This is a high achiever or less achiever, like the categories that you had made. So, don't you think these categories or these labels, they're very, they're very exclusive, if you will. Only certain people can come under that. Does that mean that the others are outside the purview of the discussion? Does that mean that the others can do not or cannot achieve things that they want? Like, what is the idea? What is the polemics behind having the label achievers? Or do you think it is correct? Yes, Ayan.
Ma'am, when you are saying about categorizing people under achieving and non-achieving, I personally feel that that is something very subjective because if someone is an achiever for me, and I myself, in my own view, I'm a non-achiever, then someone who is below me, for him, I am an achiever. So I
Exactly.
personally feel that via that, everyone, almost everyone, gets covered in that.
Okay, all right. And that's a very clever way of talking about it. कि हाँ ठीक है, ये तो subjective है, so it's all right. Okay. It was overall it was a good presentation. ठीक है?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. I think we're done for today, no?
Yes.
Next we have on Tuesday, 9 से 10. Tuesday we have two groups, group 6 and group 7. What about 4 and 5? Oh, there's no 4 and 5.
Ma'am, 4 and 5 on Monday.
Acha, Monday. Okay, okay. Okay.
I think it is assigned to another teacher.
I got it. All right. ठीक है. Thank you so much, everyone. Oh, I'll take the attendance.
Thank you, ma'am.
No, wait, attendance.
Okay, ma'am.
हाँ.
Ma'am,
Hmm.
do we have to submit the presentation somewhere in the Google Classroom or something?
Yes, you'll have to send it to me. Like you might, Pallavi, my ma'am might ask you for it as well, but you need to send it to me on my mail. Like you can mail it to me. I'll send my mail ID in the WhatsApp group itself, and you can send your presentations udhar. Like those groups who have presented today, the first, second, and third, you all can send me. Okay, write B5
Sure, ma'am.
presentation and then send it to me. The subject should be B5 presentation. Then you can write your group numbers as well. Right?
Okay, ma'am.
All right, I'll call out your names. Ajay, Amish, like respond. If you're writing it, I cannot hear because I'm on a different, sorry, I cannot see. I'm on a
Yes, ma'am.
different screen. Amlan,
Present, ma'am.
Anirudh,
Present, ma'am.
Ankit,
Present, ma'am.